Viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted, to address whatever topics you might like to discuss and whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. We are here for you to discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, you can discuss raising children, blending families, dating and relationships, whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind. God is concerned about that which concerns you. So we are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, scheduling permitted in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, which is brought to you by Fiji Water. You may already know that Fiji Water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature, it is untouched by man? It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock. The water collects in a natural artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrewed the cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is Earth's finest water. And I know when the broadcast first came live, I had some technical issues, so let's just move on. And I know that you're all tuned in. We thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. And I want to just take a moment to say to those of you who give on the Give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you who make a weekly or monthly commitment by donating on the contribution page of our website at newlifeministriesinternational.com. We don't take any of that for granted. We thank you for your commitment and for your support as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here to address whatever topics are important to you and whatever issues of life you find challenging or difficult to navigate. So I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you have followed the direction and instructions that you've heard on the broadcast, and you have surrounded yourself with new people who have positive attitudes and who have much higher goals. That's what you indicated in your communication. However, you said that you are finding it difficult, that you're not able to keep up. So let me begin by saying this. First of all, to God be the glory, and thank you for receiving the direction and instruction from God. You know, it's real important that we all hear from God daily, that we all receive daily divine direction, and that's why we have this broadcast. And so I'm going to first of all commend you for not only hearing, but following the direction. So you've now surrounded yourself with some new people in your life, which is a positive thing. So let me say this to you. The good news is that you have surrounded yourself with positive people. What you don't want to find yourself doing is trying to keep up with them. They're already ahead of this curve. They've already gone into the curve. They've already been driving this course. You're new to this. You had a lot of people around you who had negative attitudes and who their goals weren't very high. They didn't have great expectations for their life. And so consequently, you have found yourself living that life, and now you've made the change. Well, to God be the glory. So I say that to say, you don't have to keep up with them. What you have to do is run your race. You are now being blessed to be able to emulate others who are doing great things. Every day is about new opportunities. Every day is about new potential. Every day is about the new mercies of God. Every day is about experiencing the fullness of God. That's a great thing when you can find, and you didn't tell me how many people, but God allowed me to see in that secret place of your life. There's 3 new people in your life. That's a great thing when you can find 3 people who are on the same page. One of the 3 was introduced to you by one of the other two. But you were able to find two people who already had the right attitude, who have already set high goals for their lives, and one of them introduced you to another. So now you've got three people that you can look at their daily lives. Most people are blessed to have one person. You have three people to look at their daily lives, and the things that you can identify as success, you can emulate those. You can emulate those things now. You can take the example of the positive attitude that every day is a good day. Every day is going to lead to something positive occurring in your life. These are the people that you've now surrounded yourself with, but you don't want to give yourself, listen, you don't want to give yourself brain damage trying to keep up with them. This is the way they live their lives. What you want to do is learn from that. You want to emulate that. You want to take on the right spirit now. See, the people that you, and I'm not disparaging anybody's character, but the people that you have been surrounding yourself with are people who have negative attitudes. You said this, the people that were previously in your life. Now that doesn't mean that you've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. All that means is that you're no longer spending more time with them than you are with these new people. And that's a good thing, because their viewpoints are negative, their attitudes are negative, they don't have expectations for their lives. These people, these three people that you now have in your life, are people who are giving you examples. They're not instructing you, they're just, watch this, they're just loving on you. They're loving the fact that you are someone that they've met, who they are willing to meet right where you are and help to build you up from there. Help to give you some examples that are going to change the quality of your life, that are going to enhance the quality of your life, that are going to help you thrive in the quality of life. Most people aren't willing to make that change because it's uncomfortable. You see, these people who have the right attitude, and these people who have higher goals, and these people who have high expectations of themselves, when you're around those people, it's going to shine a light that says, I can do better, I should do better, and I have to work to do better. And most people are not willing to take on that responsibility. Most people are comfortable right where they are. The great thing about you is that you have decided that you were uncomfortable living with lack, living with a lack of energy, living with a lack of opportunity. You know, it's at some point, and this is for all of our listeners and viewers who are surrounded by people with bad attitudes, who are surrounded with people who don't have higher goals. At some point, you've got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. You've got to say to yourself, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live this way any longer. I want to continue improving and enhancing the quality of my life. I'm willing to put that work in. I'm willing every day to get up out of bed, first meditate, get out of bed, have my morning prayer, and then not only face the day ahead, but I'm going to find methods to thrive throughout the day. I'm going to find methods to seek for higher goals, to perform at a higher level. Now, I don't want everyone to misinterpret this. There are going to be days that you wake up that I don't ever want to wake up and just not feel like getting out of bed. I don't ever want to have one of those days. What I want is my heart's desire, and this is what I desire for each and every one of us, is that every day I'm going to perform at the highest level. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm seeking for. That's what I'm believing God for. Okay. Now you might say, but Pastor, sometimes the day just gets in the way. No, the day doesn't really get in the way. What happens is that there are some days that God says, I'm not going to put any more on you than you can bear. So what I'm going to do for you is allow you to work this day, complete the work of this day. And I'm not going to put any more pressure on you than you can bear, pardon me. I'm not going to cause you to have to do anything out of your normal routine. Because if I keep you, this is God speaking to you. If I keep you in your normal routine, you'll perform at a high level today. If I add any more to your day, it's going to overwhelm you. And at some point, you may not be able to bear it. So I'm not going to do that. Some days it's just going to require you to perform all of the assigned tasks, not tasks that are just assigned by man, but tasks that are assigned by God. Everything that God has assigned for your life, some days you just have to work those tasks. But there are other days when everything goes so well that you have the opportunity to seek higher goals. You have an opportunity to achieve more. See, that's performing at the highest level. When you have the opportunity to do more today than you did yesterday, you have the opportunity to do more today than you do most normal days. That's when you're performing at the highest level. When you are really performing, let me give you a news flash. For everyone who is employed by someone else, if you have the opportunity to complete everything on your job description for today, and you still have time available, you should be seeking to do more. And the reason is because that's when you perform at the highest level. Now you might say, well, how will I know what to do? Go back to your job description, the very beginning, and find ways that you can get ahead of where you are right now. It might be involving research, it might be involving analysis, it might be involving helping a colleague complete something that is not familiar to them. That's when you're performing at the highest level. When you're doing all of the things that are assigned to you and you seek to do more, that's when you're performing at the highest level. The problem is most of us don't want to take on that responsibility. Most of us just want to, I've heard people say this so many times over the years. If I can just get through the day. If I can just get through this day. And all they're really saying to themselves is that I don't want to perform at a high level. I just want to survive this day. This one day of the week, if I can survive this day. And then as the day goes on, usually what happens is the next day it's if I can just get through this week. And then they start living for the weekend. And before you know it, they're not maximizing the quality of life. We've got to change our thought process. So you've made a change. You've decided, okay, there are some people that I have identified that if I can spend some time in their presence, if I can learn to do what they're doing, if I can just spend some time with them, even if it's time relaxing, doing something that they enjoy, that you can enjoy doing, or that you could at least learn to do. There's a method to this purposeful life. There's a method to achieving a purposeful life. And sometimes it involves, there's an old adage that says, you say, I just want to pick your brain. Sometimes it is just finding the opportunity to spend some time with someone that you can sit with them, and listen to this, you can sit with them and extract some of their knowledge, some of their expertise, maybe even just extract some of their spirit, because there's a special anointing upon them. You know, it's important to do that. It may not seem burdensome. It may just be you sitting with them. Take them to lunch. Take them out for coffee. I don't drink coffee, but hot chocolate. Take whatever it is you can do. Now, you've done well because you put yourself in a position. You heard, and I'll tell you what you did. So this is for all of our listeners and viewers to listen to this. One of them, you decided when you heard them talking about something they enjoyed doing, an athletic activity, going to the gym, that's what it was. You decided you would go to the gym and you asked if you could work out with them. So you began to work out with them, and then you began having conversations while you were working out with them. And the other person you were able to connect with by volunteering at a charitable event. So that's something else you learned from the broadcast. So you volunteered for a charitable event, and you've been able to place those two people in your lives. Well, then the one person that you connected with, they introduced you to someone else you were able to connect with. So now you've got these three people in your lives that you can learn from, you know, that you can emulate what they're doing and improve your own quality of life. And that's a great thing. Don't try to keep up with them. Try to learn from them. You don't have to have all the answers. Learn from them. Emulate what they do. You will find that if you just run your race at your pace, you don't have to keep up with them. Because they want to empower your life, because they're willing to meet you where you are and build you up from there, they will slow their pace. They're not going to stop. They'll keep going. They'll slow their pace long enough to keep you within distance, within viewing distance, so that you know what you need to do, following them, following their pattern, and so that they can keep an eye on you also. The problem is, we cannot be the one-eyed king or queen in the land of the blind. We cannot think we have all the answers. We can't think that we cannot do everything by our own wisdom and knowledge. You know, I will say, as a pastor, one of the things that, you know, I look at regularly as part of the Champion Network, Pastor Joel Osteen, I watch what he does because I know him and I know his spirit. So I watch what he does. There are some things that he does that I emulate. And the reason is because it moves what we're doing forward, because he's been doing it for such a long time. And he's had a lot of success, not based on money or anything else, but a lot of success based on performance, giving God his very best. And that's all any of us can do. I'm never going to be Pastor Joel, but if he's giving God his very best, I'm learning to give God my very best, then I too am going to continue to walk in the righteousness of God. And what that means is experiencing the fullness of God, maximizing the fullness of God in our lives. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G provider, nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, You may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will place you into our queue so that you can become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest and fastest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you were molested as a child and now you do not want your children around family members. And you want to know, how do you explain to your children why you do not want them around family members or want your family around your children? So let me begin by saying this. I'm saddened to hear that you had to endure that experience, and I pray to God that your children will never have to endure that, and that you'll be able to overcome the thoughts of that experience from childhood. I also regret that your parents did not protect you. And I know that's part of your struggle. You didn't say that in your communication, but God allowed me to see in that secret place of your life. You're feeling, you feel that your parents did not protect you because your father and mother split up when you were young, and you feel that your father's absence didn't protect you and your mother's presence didn't protect you. Let me first of all let me say this to you. Your parents had a difficult time being parents. And the reason is because when you were born, they were young. And what happens often when you have young parents, so let me say this. Your parents met, your mother became pregnant, they were very young adults. Very young adults. And what I mean by that is your father was 20, your mother was 19. You were born when your mother was 20. What you have is young people, children raising children. And we all know, listen, you have to pass tests when you were in elementary school. You have to pass tests when you're in middle school and high school. You even have to take a test to go to an SAT or an ACT. You have to take an exam to get into college. You have to take an exam to get a driver's license. You have to take an exam when you're in college. You have to take exams for everything. The one thing you don't have to take an exam for is to be a parent. You don't have to take an exam for that. There are other things, but you don't have to take an exam. And I've often said, jokingly, people should have to take an exam to be a parent. You got to take an exam for other things. Can't get into law school without an exam. But you can't get in without the LSAT. You can't get into medical school without an exam. Everything takes an exam. There is no exam for being a parent. There is a book for being a parent, and it's the Holy Bible. You can read Dr. Spock, you can read Dr. Feelgood, you can read anybody you want to read, but nobody's going to teach you how to raise a child more than the Holy Bible. But if we're not reading the Bible, we won't know how to raise our children. So let me say this. You weren't protected as a child. Now you're trying to protect your children. Although your children are young enough that they don't need to bear that burden right now. You can explain it to them when they get older. You've built this wall around your life to keep your children protected from family members that you knew were abusive when you were younger. Be at peace with that. Because even though they may no longer have that spirit, they may have some other spirits. It is your job and your right to protect your children. That's your right as a parent. And that's the right thing to do. Now, they're young enough to tell you, they're old enough to tell you if someone were to make them feel uncomfortable. However, there's a chance they would not. And so consequently, you don't want them to experience the same thing that you've experienced. So you have to pick and choose the people you're willing to allow to be around the life of your children. And be okay with that. Because everyone doesn't have good intentions. There are evil spirits that take over the life of some people. And because those spirits are evil, they will do what they can to destroy the life of someone else. And you are still suffering from that issue today. And so consequently, you don't want your children suffering from that experience. And so what I want to tell you is what God has shown me in that secret place of your life. And that is that you're doing the right thing. Just explain it to them when they're older. You can't explain that to a child at their age and expect them to understand. Because children don't come into the age of accountability until they're the age of 12. They don't come into the age of understanding until age 18. There's 6 whole years between that you might be able to give them instruction, but they're not going to understand until they become 18 years of age. And then there's another component that leads to another level of life when they're 21 or 22 and graduate from college. So there's, and then the brain doesn't fully mature until they're age 25. So there's a lot of components to this life, and there's a lot of components to being a parent. Now I know you know, when you start dealing with the ages between 12 and 18, you're going to find that, you know, at 14, you're going to have some issues to deal with. At 16, you're going to have some issues to deal with. But by the time they're 18, they're going to understand what you're trying to do, even if they don't like it. There's a whole period of life that you're going to have to go through, and you won't be able to even begin to explain that to them until they're old enough to understand. You can share some things about your concern about the people they're around, even family members. You can share that once they become the age of accountability. But you want to continue to protect your children. And I'm going to encourage you to do that, and I'm going to pray for your family, that your children will not endure what you endured, and I'm going to pray that God will finally give you peace in understanding that what was happening in your life as a child was due to people having an evil spirit. You know, there's that side of it, and then there's the legal aspect of it. So, you know, fortunately enough, the legal side of it is that you haven't discussed it with anyone, so therefore it was never addressed legally. And now statutes of limitations and so forth, but you're doing the right thing protecting your children. And so don't lose any more sleep about them wanting to spend time with family members that you're not comfortable with them spending time with. Because you don't know if the evil spirit has departed or when it will return. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. If you're in any of those areas, check